Hello, welcome everyone. I hope you have had a wonderful Thursday today. Welcome to Ask Retro Anything, episode 6, helping you get online, get found, and look funking great. So tonight we're answering the question, what are keywords and how do I use them for my website or the content that I'm creating every single day, every single week or month? So let's look at what keywords are. So keywords are the words that define what a particular piece of content you have created is all about. They are the words that your customers are typing into Google search to search for products, answers, or to discover something of interest. For example, I may have written a nice article on how to restore a vintage lounge chair. So throughout the article, I would have used the words vintage lounge chair. Vintage lounge chair would be considered the keyword or key phrase. These two terms, keywords and key phrases, are pretty much interchangeable. So when I talk about keywords, I'm also talking about key phrases. So when someone types in vintage lounge chair into Google search bar, I want my article to show up in the search results. This, however, is not so easy to get your article on the first page of Google search results, as we are competing with a lot of other businesses who also want to have their articles, products, services about vintage lounge chairs to be found as well. This is where understanding the two different types of keywords is valuable and what we're going to look at tonight. So let's look at the two types of keywords. The first type is called head term. So head term keywords are generally short, usually 2 to 3 words, 1, 2, or 3 words, and target a much broader market. So for example, in the case of the vintage lounge chair, which I spoke about just before, I've written an article about a vintage lounge chair. The head term keywords would be vintage lounge chair, so 2 to 3 words. When someone types those words into the Google search bar, it will bring up all the articles, all the products, all the discovery on everything relating to vintage lounge chairs. So vintage lounge chair, that would be the head term. So everything relating to vintage lounge chair would show up on Google search results. So when I type that into Google search results, 133 million results came up. So that would be the market that you're trying to compete with to get onto the first page of the Google results page. So this just seems like a very impossible challenge and one that generally is not worth fighting, to be honest, especially when starting out and just building your business and your brand. So this is where the second type of keyword called long tail keywords comes into play. So long tail keywords are generally 3 or more words. So let's take the same example of the vintage lounge chair. As I said, that was the head term keywords, which would be vintage lounge chair. However, the long tail keyword would be something like how to restore a vintage lounge chair. So that's quite long. So that would be considered the long tail key phrase. So by using more words and really describing what your article is about, you're going to be targeting a much smaller audience. And by doing this, you're going to be increasing your chance of being found on Google search. So when I use these long tail keywords in Google search, so instead of using the head term, which is vintage lounge chair, if I use the long tail key phrase, which is how to restore a vintage lounge chair, then only 27 million results come up, not 133 million. So as I said, when I've created this longer version of a key phrase, I've now reduced my target audience down to 27 million compared to 133 million. Now, if I go in and add an even more specific term into the long tail key phrase, such as a specific type of vintage chair, for example, a wingback chair. So the long tail key phrase would now be How do I restore a vintage wing-back chair? So this makes it even more specific. So this reduces the results to 2 million on Google search. So from the head term, which was what was it? Vintage lounge chair, which got 133 million results. I've now reduced it down to 2 million results on Google search. So if I then went in and added maybe my location, that would even reduce that target market down a lot more. Let me give you an example in my field. So if I was to use the keyword web design, this would be considered the head term, and I would never be found because I would be competing with a global market of other web designers who are also using that head term. But if I used web design Toowoomba, I would have a much better chance of being found. I could even then be even more specific with my keyword by using retro style web design Toowoomba or vintage style web design Toowoomba. So that's going to reduce my competition even more. Yes, I wouldn't be seen in front of such a large target, but that audience that I do see, they would be looking specifically for vintage style web design or retro style web design, and would be more likely to click through to my website and use my services because I'm providing them the service they're specifically looking for, not a broad search of web design, which is the head term. So when considering what words to use on your website, your blog posts, your product pages, remember to use a long tail keyword, so the longer phrase, as you'll have a better chance of being found by a customer who is looking specifically for your type of product or service. So as I said before, if you're wanting to learn more about keywords and researching for keywords, I will be holding a workshop on May 11th called Blogging for Beginners with Ellen, who's an amazing copywriter. We'll be looking at what type of content to write, how to schedule and organize your blogging life so it doesn't overwhelm you, how to write your content for SEO and get found by Google. And this is where we'll be looking more specifically at keyword research and finding the right keywords to use, and how to make your content stretch, so reusing that content across all of your social media platforms, not just your blog. So I'm pretty sure I put the link in the description there if you want to check it out and find out more about it on May the 11th. You can also join the Facebook event. So if you guys have any questions, chuck them down in the comments below, DM me, email me, and I'll answer them in the coming weeks. Thanks for joining me for my 10 little minutes of Ask Retro Anything. We'll see you then.